Hi, I'm Dan Costa, Chief Content Officer at Worth Media Group, and I'm here at the Milken Global Conference in LA. My guest is Suzanne Dibianca. She's the Chief Impact Officer of Salesforce. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
So you're here, you're going to be talking about carbon credits, we're going to get to that. But I just want to ask a question about your job, your approach. To me, Salesforce is it's really the poster child for corporate responsibility and impact. And in this current political environment, global environment, has your job changed at all? Has your approach changed at all?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question, and Salesforce was founded on what we call the sort of three-legged stool. So it was a new technology model, software provided over the internet, unheard of essentially in 2000. New business model, subscription-based, pay-as-you-go, also unheard of when you were buying software in 1990 and 2000s, and a new philanthropic model, which was to make the community a part of the company's growth and success as we grew. And so those values, so we were founded, our founding principle was really to put the community as a core leg of the stool as far as the company's growth went. And so that's a core value to the company. We have 5 company values. They've not changed. They are growth, customer success, innovation, equality, and sustainability. And as we think about our values, they haven't changed. Some of our language may have changed in the current environment, particularly as it relates to some of our DEI programs that are intent to be transparent about them. But the values of our company have not changed a bit. And the way that we operationalize the work of equality and sustainability and philanthropy just continues to grow.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've talked to a lot of leaders here at the Milken Conference. There's obviously a lot of uncertainty. Companies are trying to chart a course forward, and that knowing what your values are as a starting point is the thing that shouldn't change. Your approach may need to change, your tactics, certainly the technology is always changing, so you have to adapt to that. But the values actually, your employees will appreciate it, your customers will appreciate it, and if you can hold on to your values, it actually winds up being a win for everybody.
That's right, and we know that, for example, diverse teams outperform. There's a lot of business value as it relates to the equality value and the sustainability value. So we not only have to be grounded in them, but we know that it makes for a better company, and to your point, has employees feel more seen and really show up for work in a way that supports them.
So you're speaking later on today about carbon credits. Tell me a little bit about your approach, your panel, and sort of how it's evolved since carbon credits sort of started to become popular a couple of years ago.
Well, it's interesting being here at Milken as they're sort of surrounded by asset managers in different classes. And, the carbon credit markets are a real asset class. And they will continue to be so, both in the voluntary markets and in the compliance markets. And they've been kind of beat up in the last 5 years. But I think it was a reckoning we saw coming. There was what I called carbon cowboys out there, a lot of them with unregulated operations and not very transparent results. So I think this reckoning was due. I'm glad that it happened. I think the higher quality, more transparency that we can bring to these markets, the better for everyone, including the people on the ground.
I feel like that's a pretty common pattern, though, that new asset classes come online. It's happened with crypto a couple of times, and then it's just part of the development. There's going to be exuberance, and then it's going to decline, and then it comes out, and the market finds a level.
That's right, and then you find raiders. So, for example, there's now B0 and Silvera, who's a great company that we invested in, and Pachama, and I could go on and on, but there is now a sub-industry around rating these projects, which is an important part of the life cycle.
And that's something that doesn't happen from the day one. That's something that happens after the reckoning. It develops over time, and then you wind up with a sustainable and efficient market, ideally.
That's right. And we're looking for high-quality projects, and for Salesforce, we invest in nature. We actually invest in all colors of the carbon rainbow. We invest in oceans, we invest in CDR work, which we've done through the First Mover Coalition, but really our first love, if you will, are nature-based credits, and we like them because they provide not only additional ways to capture carbon out of the atmosphere, but they provide food, storm protection. There's so many secondary benefits when you invest in nature-based solutions. So we'll continue to go hard in that area.
So Salesforce is obviously an AI company. Every company is an AI company now, but I'd say that you're more so than most. But you're also applying AI to impact and to nature solutions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, well, you have to remember Salesforce has been at AI for over a decade. And I think what's really changed in the last year is the mainstreaming of AGI and the agentic layer. So we are transforming the company to be agent first in every product. And as we think about some of the industries that I work in, which is education, which is climate, and some other areas of impact, disaster relief, having an agentic layer, which is a multimodal conversational interface on top of vast reams of data, enables especially nonprofits who are really strapped for resources a way to access that data in a much more actionable way. So, one example is Good 360, which is a disaster relief organization, and 40% of goods tend to get wasted in every disaster. That's a pretty high percentage, donated goods, because people are wanting to be generous and they don't get the right thing to the right place at the right time. All with very good intention, but we were able to put an agent on top of their large sets of data that basically were coming in from the Red Cross, coming in from Habitat for Humanity, saying we need these things at this time, in this moment. And so as a individual who wanted to be helpful, for example, in the LA fires, since we're here in the LA area, I could just basically type into a conversational interface, think about a chat GPT-like UI, what goods are needed, where are they needed, how can I get them there? They're doing a lot in saving emissions because they're carpooling as well, a lot of these goods to the right place. So it's really scaling their impact and lowering their staff's costs to do that.
That's amazing. It's really operational efficiencies that just wouldn't be possible with a small staff, and also short time frames.
That's right, exactly. Very short time frames.
So that you can't study the project. You have to put things in motion instantly.
That's right.
That's amazing. Do you have any other examples of that?
Another example I love, there's so many, but one that I really love is in education, which is with a group we've been working with called College Possible. And they bring in every year about 1,000 students as teachers through the AmeriCorps program, and they're tutors for college entry, high school level students who are going through the college application process. And they're bound by the fact they're just there for a short stint as a volunteer. So they have knowledge loss and they have to retrain these volunteers when they come in every time. But they're also sort of bound by a 9-to-5 workday. And when you're applying for college and you're in school all day, you're often doing some of that research at night. So the agent basically sits on the front end so that the student can basically say, this is my GPA, these are the kind of finances I have to be able to afford colleges. I'm looking in these regions in the US. I want a small school. I want a steady blank. And it will come back to you with a short list. And so that when the tutor then comes in the next morning, they can take the work of the agent and really supercharge what they've been working on with their student. And that student can 24/7 interact and try to find the right college. And not only that, it will then come back to them with reminders. The college application process for this loan is due on this date. Here are the documents you need to provide. Do you need help finding those documents? Do you need them translated into English? So you can basically do all this work with the agent, and then the human in the loop, which is very important, can work with the student on the emotional, social side of what's not often covered.
Yeah, no, it's extraordinary to see. I think the education space is going to be one of the most interesting ones to watch.
I agree, and health.
If you think about it, when ChatGPT first went public or became publicly available, the students were the first ones to jump on board and have it do their homework for them. They knew exactly how to use it, not the way we want them to, and not the way I think they eventually will. I think, but in terms of interacting and making sense of vast quantities of data, it's just going to be transformative, and it is going to be more accessible than traditional educational systems have been.
I think that's right. And we've got a whole accelerator program in this area for educational institutions One of our grantees is Khan Academy, and Combigo is a very interesting agent. And where they have shifted is really to be a teacher assistant, because they know they have to get these tools in the hands of teachers to enable comfort for students than using them in the classroom. So they're able to do lesson planning and calendaring and communicating with students whose parents may not speak English as a first language. And so, we're really focused on, engaging, empowering, training up teachers.
Yeah, that's great work. Suzanne, is there anything, you're going to be here for the day, is there anything you're really looking forward to seeing, to anybody you're really important, you really want to meet? A-Rod just walked by. Do you need an introduction to him?
I would love an introduction to A-Rod. I'm just excited for the breadth of conversations that's here. I've been able to be engaged in conversations around health and longevity, around different kind of asset classes, around ocean innovation. So I think that it's really been interesting to be able to have the kind of breadth of dialogue that Milken brings and the kind of quality of speakers that are here. I think it's just world class. So there's not a particular moment, but I'm just excited to sort of see out the rest of the day.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes out of your schedule to talk to me.
Thanks,
I really
Dan.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Dan Costa with Worth Media Group. You can find more videos like this on our YouTube channel.